In the previous example, we have seen how to access values for each keys using dot notation. That is, to access the items, we used dot, then the name of the key. So JSObject.name will return the value for the particular key with name. Then here this will return the value for the item in the temp key which is within the main key using the dot notation. In the previous lecture, we have used brackets only to access items within arrays. If you remember, this whether key contains information inside an array, and to access the item, we have to use whether of 0 or whether of 1. In all other cases, we used dot to access the values. In fact, you can also use brackets to access the values. I haven't explained it there to avoid confusion. So here, if you want to access the value for this name property, what you can do is, you can enclose this name within square brackets, and you should have double quotes before and after the name of the key. So this JS object of name, instead of dot name, within square brackets and inside double quotes, you can specify the name of your key. So let us check whether we are getting the same output. This is London. Now let me refresh. Still you are getting the value as London. Suppose you do not put this double quotes. What will happen? You will not get the output. So let me try to remove this. Save, refresh. See, you are getting the value as undefined. So make sure that you put the name of your key within double quotes. Okay. Save, refresh, London. Now this also can be accessed using bracket notation. So instead of dot notation, we are using bracket notation now. So let me remove this square brackets, and I have to put this main within double quotes. So again main. Then let me use dot here. Will we get the same output? Let's check that. Refresh. See, you are getting the same value. And let me change this also to bracket notation. So here closing double quotes, closing square brackets. Then also you will get the same output. So instead of dot notation, you can also use bracket notation to access the items. Now, if both the notations do the same thing, why should we have two? You can either have dot or have bracket notation, right? But in some cases, this dot notation will not work and you will have to use bracket notation itself. Instead of this, let me create another JSON data to illustrate this. Let me name it as var JSON data itself, and let me put it in single quotes to make it actually JSON. Otherwise, it will be JavaScript object. Okay. So let me enclose it within curly braces. Next, let me write person. Okay. Within curly braces, I am going to write 1 John Smith, comma 2 Kevin Turner. Okay. So normally if we are using dot notation, how should we access this? It should be JSObject.person.1, right? So let us comment this and write document.write. I want the name John Smith. So how will we access it if we are using dot notation? It will be JSObject.person.1, right? But now itself it is giving an error. Why? Here we are using the key name as an integer. So dot notation will not work when you use a number as your key name. So in this case, here itself you are getting an error. And suppose I change this to 1 like this. What will happen? Let's check the output. Refresh. See, you are getting John Smith. So please remember that the dot notation will not work if the name of your key is a number. And while using a number, it is not necessary to enclose it within double quotes. See, you haven't put the value within double quotes. Even then, you are getting the output, right? Now, let me try to put it in double quotes itself and check whether we are getting the output. Still, you will get the same output. So, if the name of your key is a number, you will not be able to use the dot notation. You have to use the bracket notation. And one more thing is that you can either enclose or do not enclose your key within double quotes if the name of your key is a number. So this is one case where you have to use bracket notation and where dot notation will not work. Then another situation where dot notation will not work and you have to use bracket notation is the key name contains a space. So let me write this as first name. Okay, this is a valid key name in case of JSON data, right? You can have space. So let me try to access person dot first space name. Will this work? No, here itself you are getting the error. And suppose I use bracket notation and specify this within double quotes, you will get the output. So let me save and refresh. Still you are getting the output. Let me change this John to Anna and check, refresh. See, you are getting Anna Smith. So if your key name is having a space, then also dot notation will not work and you have to use bracket notation. Then another important situation where you have to use bracket notation instead of dot notation is if you want to use some input in a variable. Let me first change this to first and this to second. Okay, and then I want to save where x equals first. Okay, and here I want to get the name Anna Smith. So if I try to write person dot x, what will happen? Will you get Anna Smith as the output? Refresh. See, you are getting undefined. So in this case, if you use person of x, here you should not enclose this x inside double quotes. Why? It is a variable name. So if I try refresh, see, you are getting Anna Smith. So this case is very important. Why? Suppose you want to collect some input from the user and use that input to check for your key. So in that case, you will not be able to use dot notation and you have to go for bracket notation itself. So here we have seen 3 different cases where dot notation will not work and you have to use bracket notation. They are if the name of your key is a number, if the name of your key contains space or any other special character, and if you want to use a variable to check for the key name. In that case as well, dot notation will not work and you will have to use bracket notation. So in the following lectures, we will be using dot notation or bracket notation depending on the scenario.